Hello students. In this video we will start with the chapter Study of Sound. Now sound is a form of energy which creates the sensation of hearing in our ears. This energy is in the form of waves and a medium is necessary for the propagation of the sound waves. So if the sound waves have to travel, they require a medium for its propagation. Now sound wave, they give rise to a chain of compression and rarefaction in the medium, and the particles of the medium, they oscillate about their mean position, and this happens in the direction parallel to the propagation of the wave, and such waves are called as longitudinal waves. And on the other hand, we also have transverse wave. So there are two waves in which the medium of the propagation happens, that is through longitudinal waves and through transverse waves. Now here in this figure we can see a sound wave. It can be shown in the form of a graph. So at any moment during the propagation of the sound wave, we can find the alternate bands of compression and rarefaction. C is for compression and R is for rarefaction, and these are called as the greater or the lesser density bands. Now in the first figure we can see that change in the density, that how the density of the air changes through compression and rarefaction. In the second figure, that is figure B, we can find that this is the change in pressure which is happening, and the third figure is the average density or pressure which will happen after a rarefaction and a compression, so that we have denoted with a graph. Next is the velocity of the sound, that is how the sound travels, the speed of the sound. So we know that the distance covered by a point on the wave in unit time is the velocity of the sound wave. So the distance in the time is called as sound wave. So velocity will be equal to distance upon time. Now velocity as distance can be calculated in wavelength. The distance between the waves, it is called as the wavelength. So then velocity will be equal to wavelength upon time period. So V will be equal to wavelength upon the time period. Now wavelength is represented by lambda. So this is the sign of lambda, that is V is equal to lambda upon T. Now 1 upon T is equal to mu, that is the frequency. So from this we get the formula that V is equal to mu into lambda, that is wavelength into frequency. Now main thing we should know that what is the velocity of the sound in any gaseous medium. So it usually depends on the factors like the physical factors like temperature, the molecular weight and the density. So temperature if we talk about, so the velocity of sound, as here you can see that V is directly proportional to root of T. So you can say that velocity is directly proportional to the square root of temperature. Then in the second example, we can see that the density, so we can see that V is inversely proportional to the density. So from the formula, you can directly write that V is inversely proportional to 1 upon root of density. So this is how you can write, and when you are calculating, the same thing we use, same formulas we use. Next we have the molecular weight. So the velocity of the sound, it is inversely proportional to the square root of the molecular weight. So V is inversely proportional to 1 upon root of m. When you are writing directly proportional, we do not write 1 upon, and when we are writing inversely proportional, we write 1 upon. Now we humans can hear only a particular range of sound, that is we can hear up to 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. So this is the frequency range for us, for humans. Now these sounds, that is which comes under the hearing range, the frequency that is from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, those are called as the audible sounds. So our ears cannot hear the sound less than 20,000 hertz and more than 20,000 hertz. So the sound frequency which are smaller than 20 hertz, that is called as the infrasound. So less than 20 hertz, we call it as infrasound. The example is the sound of the pendulum, or the sound which is generated by the vibrations of the earth crust. All these are under the infrasound. Now next is the sound wave which are greater than 20,000 hertz, that is 20 kHz. Those are called as the ultrasound. Now these ultrasound can be heard by animals like dog, mouse, bat, dolphins. They have special ability to hear these ultrasounds, and also they can even send some noises which are inaudible to us. Even the children if we see the children which are under the 5 years of age, those children and some other creatures also like insects and all, they can also hear the waves with the frequency up to 25,000 hertz. So these sounds are called as the ultrasounds. And common examples, the bat, mice, the dolphins, they all produce the ultrasounds. So these are the three types of sounds: infrasounds, audible sounds, and ultrasonic sounds. Audible sounds which we can hear between 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Less than 20 hertz is called as infrasound, and more than 20,000 hertz is called as the ultrasound. Now, if we have to talk about the uses of the ultrasound or the ultrasound technology, so they can be used for communication between the ships. They can also be used in sonography technology. There we use the ultrasound. These sounds are also used in industry to clean the intricate parts of the machine, which where the hands cannot reach, the inside parts where you are not able to clean it. Then to locate the cracks or any fault which are found in the metal blocks so that it don't lead to any accident afterwards. These are also used to join the plastic surfaces together. Such sounds can be used. Then to sterilize liquid like milk by killing the bacteria in it, so that milk can be kept for a very long duration. So in huge factories they use ultrasound to sterilize the milk. So these are the few areas where we use the ultrasounds. Next is the reflection of sound. Now, how we have seen that light waves can reflect, same way sound waves can also be reflected from a solid surface or from a liquid surface. Now, these waves also follow the law of reflection. So, as we had learned about the law or how the light reflection happens, same way for these sound waves also there are few laws of reflections. Now, a smooth or a rough surface is needed for the refraction of sound. The direction of the incident of the sound and the reflected sound should also make equal angles. How it happens in light reflection, that is theta. If you see here in figure also, the sound is passed from one way, that is the clock sound is passed from one way. The sound hits the wall and then again it comes, it reflects in the same in the opposite direction. Now the if we draw a perpendicular in between, we can see that both the angles are equal. So these things are equal, they follow same line, that is equal angles should be followed. Now there can be good reflectors also and bad reflectors also. So many incidents happens, like if we talk about a thin cloth, so it is a bad reflector because it absorbs the light, it absorbs the sound can be traveled out. But if we talk about a hard surface, so it is a good reflector. So in same way how we have studied about the light, the reflection of light, same way we have the reflection of sound also, and the same laws are followed for reflection of sound as well. Now, many of you all must have visited an echo point at the hill station. Usually it is there at Mahabaleshwar, echo point is there. Then in various other places also we have echo point. In hill station we have all these echo points. So if you shout loudly at such point, you hear the same sound just after a little while. And this sound is called as the echo. So if we talk in scientific language, what is echo? So echo is the repetition of the original sound because of the reflection by some surfaces. So because the sound is being reflected from those surfaces, so it becomes an echo. Now, in order to be able to get the proper echo, the reflection it should be distinctly at 22 degrees Celsius, and the minimum distance between the source and the reflecting surface, it should also be around 17.2 meters. So as the velocity of sound depends on temperature of the air, it also depends on the distance and the temp of the temperature on which it is acting. So that is why there are many things which is considered, and it should be approximately 17.2 meters. There is also calculation how we calculate it, that will be studying afterwards. So this is how an echo is created. Now echo can usually be heard multiple times also due to a continuous or multiple reflection. There are various places, like if we talk about the Gol Gumbad, which is at Vijapur in Karnataka, where there if you shout you can hear your name multiple times. So this is called as multiple echo, where multiple echo is generated. Now, as we talked about echo, which happens because of the reflection of sound, so there are few sounds which get reflected from the walls and the roof of a room multiple times, and this causes single sound to be heard not once but continuously. And as you can hear it continuously, it is called as reverberation. Now, this reverberation can be heard in some auditorium or some particular seats in an auditorium which have the inferior sound reception. So as you can see in this diagram, there is a seat which receives the inferior sound, and that is why that sound will be called as the reverberated sound, the sound which is heard multiple times. Now, you all must have heard about sonar. The full form of sonar is sound, navigation, and ranging, and it is used to determine the direction, distance, and speed of an underwater object with the help of ultrasonic sound waves. So, here we are using the ultrasound. Now, sonar has a transmitter and a receiver which are fitted on the ship, or it can be fitted also on a boat. So the transmitter produces and transmits the ultrasonic sound waves, and these waves travel through the water and it reaches down to the bottom, and that after touching the bottom, as it is solid, it then again is reflected back, and the reflected waves are received by the receiver on the ship. So the receiver then converts the ultrasonic sound into electrical signals, and these signals are then interpreted. Now the time difference between the transmission and the reception is noted, and this time and the velocity of the sound in the water give the distance from the ship of the object which reflects the wave. So in this way, sonar can be used to determine the depth of the sea, whether you should go in this direction or not. And sonar can also be used for some research work also. Also, they can be used to search the underwater hills, valleys, if there is any submarines or not, if any iceberg is present or not, or if there is some sunken ship or something else is present inside the sea or at the bottom of the sea. Now, the another use of ultrasonic sound, which even you might have experienced sometime, that is sonography. Now, sonography technology, it uses the ultrasonic sound waves and it generates the image of the internal organ of the body, and usually it is used to determine any swelling or if any infection is there or any pain is there, even the conditions of heart, or if any heart attack is going on, or the growth of the fetus, or all the other things we can check through this sonography. So what we do is, for this technique you require a probe which is like a stick and a gel. So the gel is used to make proper contact between the skin and the probe. Uh, and because of this ultrasound, when the ultrasound is created, the frequency of the ultrasound is transmitted inside the body with the help of the probe, and the sound reflected from the internal organ is again collected by the probe, and it is then given into the computer which generates the image of the internal organ. And this is how the image of the internal organ appears, the inside lining of your stomach or any other thing. It can be easily diagnosed. Now this method is also painless. So if you have to determine what is going on inside your body, so sonography is the best thing to do that. Now our ear is the most important organ. It is also a sensory organ, and we humans can hear to an audible range of 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. When the sound waves fall on the eardrum, it vibrates, and these vibrations are then converted into electrical signals which travel to our brain through the nerves. And the ear can be divided into three parts, which then allow the different impulses which are going on inside the ear. So first is the outer ear, which is also called as pinna. Second is the middle ear, and third is the inner ear. So the outer ear collects the sound wave and then passes them through a tube to a cavity inside the middle ear, and this funnel like structure which is there inside, it helps to collect and pass sound into the middle ear. So this is the main important part of the outer ear, to collect and to pass it to the middle ear. Now the middle ear, it is a thin membrane in the cavity of the middle, and it is also called as eardrums. If any damage happens to your eardrums, your ear will be getting affected because of that. So when a compression in a sound wave reaches the eardrum, the pressure outside it increases and it gets pushed inward. So the opposite happens when a rarefaction happens. So compression and rarefaction continuously affects our eardrum, and the pressure outside decreases and the membrane gets pulled outwards when there is a rarefaction. So thus the sound waves causes vibrations of the membrane. So because of the compression and rarefaction, it is getting pulled inside and pulled outside, and because of that the vibrations are happening continuously inside the middle ear. Then we have the inner ear. The auditory nerve which is there, it connects the inner ear to our brain. So the inner ear has a structure like a shell. So here you can see it is like a shell inside, how the snail ka shell is there, same way, and it is called as the cochlear. Now, the cochlear receives the vibration coming from the membranes and it converts them into the electrical signals, which are then sent to our brain through these nerves, and then our brain analyzes them, and then it sends us the response to that signal, and then we know that yes, what word we have heard. So for each word or for each sentence that you are hearing, continuously rarefaction and compression is happening in your inside the ear, that is in your middle ear, and it is then connected to the auditory nerve, which is then collects and then sends the electrical signals to your brain. So this is how the human ear work, and this is because we can only hear up to the range of 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, only the audible sound can be heard by the humans.